All right. Y'all ready? Y'all ready to get this party started? All right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Max Hunter. I'm finally getting over my first cold of the season for a long time. But in spite of that, I'm very happy to be here and give our greetings and salutations from the Odessa Brown Children's Clinic. I'm part of the Community Measurement and Innovation Hub. I'm co-lead in the hub, and we're launching a new series, a new town hall series. It's called Community Ground Rounds, the Odessa Brown Town Hall. And today we're going to talk about thriving athletes, mind, body, and soul. We've labeled it or changed the branding to Community Ground Rounds because Ground Rounds usually involves medical care providers or physicians talking about the diagnosis, treatment, and curing of disease. But in community health, we want to have a broader lens and be more inclusive. So we want to have conversations in the midst of the community. So that's what we hope to have today. So as we inaugurate this town hall series, we want to invite you to keep coming back. Next month, we'll talk about the Community Measurement and Innovation Hub, and the following month, we'll be talking about Black masculinity and mental health, focusing in on adolescent and young adulthood and coming of age. I've just recently published a book on Black masculinity. And so we're going to gather mental health providers, local artists, to talk about the topic of coming of age and mental health among Black males.
Spry Scott went from a career of over 20 years as a fashion stylist to following his passion as a lifestylist. He's helping individuals to become the most excellent version of themselves from the inside out. He is a certified meditation guide and certified yoga instructor. Spry is the co-founder of Medicine for Melanin, an organization connecting Black and brown people to businesses and individuals committed to our community's physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional healing. Through his company, he is the host of How Y'all Healin', a conversation series talking to health and wellness professionals about their healing journeys and how they use their gift to heal Black and brown communities. Spry is Rosa and Bryce's dad, and by default, is an assistant coach for his son's track team, Halls Express. So thank you for welcoming Spry Scott here to host our panel discussion, and we appreciate you coming on out, Spry.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, or good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I said good afternoon because I'm still on New York time, I think. So we're 3 hours ahead of y'all. So first of all, let me just say thank you to everyone who came out this morning to support. And I also want to say a special hello to everyone who is joining us online because we are streaming this virtually and it's live. So if you have someone who said they wanted to be here but couldn't be here, make sure you send them that link to Seattle Children's, to the YouTube channel. You'll find it on your flyers on your table, or you can go to Seattle Children's website and get the link there as well. And then also you'll be able to go back and watch this again and again. If there's specific points that you wanted to go back and review or share with others, you definitely can. So again, thank you. And I want to start by introducing our panel. We have an amazing panel here, and I've been talking to some of them before the event, and I'm excited to talk to them here, and I'm excited for you all to hear what they have to offer as well. So I want to start first. To my right is Dr. Kristen Monaghan. Did I get it right? Okay. All right. She is the Clinical Director of Behavioral Health at Odessa Brown Children's Clinic. She has been with the Odessa Brown Children's Clinic for 6 years and is the mother of 2. So let's give her a hand. Next to her, we have Dean of Community Engagement at Raineer Beach Leadership Academy, Lenny Emperado. Raineer Valley Leadership Academy. He currently supports his community as leadership facilitator, and I'm gonna get this one mixed up. Kaju Kenbo. Oh, I got it, all right. Kaju Kenbo instructor and trainer. A former UW football standout, Lenny loves to facilitate workshops and indoor and outdoor activities. He's also committed to the greater coaching model to build physical development in high school and college-level athletes in Washington and Los Angeles. Additionally, he creates culturally relevant programs for youth and families by using his dojo as a safe space. So let's give it up for Coach Lenny. To my left, I have Dr. Monique Burton, who is the medical director of the sports medicine program at Seattle Children's Hospital. She also serves as the first female chair of the USA Track and Field Sports Medicine and Science Committee and has been a team physician for the Olympic Games and World Championships. She has a passion for equitable access to physical activity and the benefits of movement on overall well-being and health. She is on the leadership team of the Kings County Play Equity Coalition, working to address and dismantle the disparities in access and participation in physical activity. Let's give it up for Dr. Burton. When he's not hanging out with his children, Gabriel Rapier, or better known as Coach G, is focused on giving back to his community. The former Garfield High School basketball and track and field standout is a recess leader and reading tutor at Leshai Elementary, a soccer coach, and an after-school enrichment instructor at Washington Middle School and the Birchie School. He also runs sports camps and private training independently via Coach G's Athletics. In addition, he seeks to cultivate community and create independent learners and thinkers through sports. Let's give it up for Coach G. And last but definitely not least, Nicole Petty is the athletic director at Raineer Beach High School, right? Or is it Raineer Valley? Okay. At Raineer Beach High School, she is a well-regarded Garfield alum where she played on the basketball team, ran cross-country and track and field, and also ran for the University of Nevada. Coach Petty has a BS in Human Development and Family Studies with an emphasis on child and adolescent development. With an emphasis on child and adolescent development and a minor in psychology and addiction treatment. In the community, she is known for taking a holistic approach to athletic development and promoting sports as a path toward developing the character that allows one to transcend life challenges. Give it up for Coach Petty. And today we're going to be talking about mental health. And, while there are many benefits to young people participating in sports, we also understand that there are challenges that often come up both on and off the field, or court, or track, wherever you're playing. In 2021, Olympic medalist Simone Biles and tennis star Naomi Osaka spoke publicly about their challenges with mental health. And before that, NBA stars DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love both shared similar experiences. This has led to more conversations surrounding mental health, and now we see companies and organizations like the NFL, for example, that are taking a more proactive approach to ease the stigma of mental health. And just so that we are all on the same page, I want to give you all a definition, a working definition of mental health. According to mentalhealth.gov, mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And it affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. So I want to start with you, Coach G, because I talked about the benefit. There are lots of benefits to being active and playing sports, and we're taught from an early age that we should be involved in some kind of physical activity. Can you talk about some of the benefits of playing sports?
Sure. Um, Foremost, your body is your temple, and constructing and allowing your temple to be the best it can be allows you to have the fullness of life. I feel like, you know, you're given the gift to be able to wake up every day and have energy in your body, physically maintaining that and finding different avenues, different channels in which to guide that energy is important. I can honestly say I've been an athlete since I was 10. My mom's sitting right there. She let me go over to Junkins Park and Barnett Park. Those are the two places I could go in the library. And, I'm proud that I was able to channel that energy. And even to this day, I'm 45 years old, and I still go over to that same park and shoot around and play. The benefits are numerous. I can honestly say I always look at it in a holistic manner, in that, it starts with the physical. That's the most prevalent. That's what's most seen, what you can feel, what you can touch. Then it comes the mental, then comes the emotional, and then that magical part is the soul, and getting all three of those in unison and in line allows you to touch that spiritual aspect of it. And so, but it starts with the base of the physical. For me personally, I get bored easily. I was a basketball standout. I got bored after college. Now I'm a soccer guy. I kayak, I hike, I swim, I bike. All of those are just to find different avenues in which to channel energy. So physical, just physical interaction with your environment and finding ways that are enjoyable, that are diverse, that are just fun. If it's not fun, why do it? So physical activity is the base and the start and the foundation of all other aspects of health of self.
Thank you. Coach Petty, you're an athlete and you work with a lot of young people. What are some of the challenges that come along with playing sports?
Former athlete, but thank you. I would say challenges. I'm going to actually turn that around and say the gifts that come with it. And one of those things, and I know for me, this is one of my former teammates, I should say. But I should say my career started very young. Come from a family, there was 9 of us. We all participated in sports and athletics. Academics was a point of reference as well. It has given me a gift, and those that I work with a gift that doesn't come in any other package. Not only does sports push you, obviously, physically, but there's a mental component. There's a discipline component. There is a get up when you fall down component. There's a component that you have to be able to get through that defeat, handle the pressure, be able to celebrate and what you work so hard to get, and then handle if you work so hard to get something you weren't able to get. So I would say my life today has a lot to do with the experience I had in sports and athletics. And I don't think there's anything else in that place that could allow me to be where I'm at. And I think what I see with a lot of the young people that I work with, I coach, I train, I support my own children who are all athletes. It's that same emphasis. How is this making them a better person? How is this helping them to get through the challenges in life that they experienced? I don't think there's a challenge itself in sports. I think it's part of the journey that allows them to overcome challenges in life.
Coach Lenny, can you talk about some of the issues that may come up while playing? Like, for instance, when tryouts are coming up, and there's this anxiety that they may face for one, just the tryouts alone, and then there's you know, well, what if I make the team? What if or rather, what if I don't make the team? And so there's you know, some challenges with that. But then there's also challenges with making the team, because now you're expected to perform at a certain level. Can you talk a little bit about that and some other issues within the sports?
Sure. Again, sports is like an imitation of things that you will be going through in life, right? And when we want a new job, we got to do a job interview. We have to get prepared. We have to create a resume. We have to do all these things mentally to be prepared for when that date is of the job interview. So as a person playing sports, same feelings. You're learning these skills, these life skills at a young age. How do I prepare? What does it look like? I might not do it good first time around. I might just show up. And I might have fear. I might have doubt. I might be super excited because this is the first time I get to play like some kind of group sports. And I don't have to be alone and play by myself. I can be with my friends. So if I have support, maybe I'm not so nervous. If I feel like maybe I'm stepping into a new realm and a new level, something I've never done, I'm going outside the box, but I want to try it, then I'm going to feel those things. And how I prepare for those things is, those are the lessons that we learn as a youth in sports. So every time I have this experience of a new level or having to like do my best to join some type of team, what am I doing to prepare myself? I have to go through my mental checklist. Do I have the skills? Am I strong enough? Am I fast enough? Do I have the knowledge to even participate in this sport, to show up? What do I want? What are my goals of participating in this thing? The better off prepared I am, it's probably going to go better, right? The less prepared I am, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So when you first start out, you're playing around in all of that stuff. You're trying to figure out your limits. You're trying to figure out who you are physically in the space where you have to try out for whatever sport it is. And then mentally, where are you at? Are you the person right now at that moment where fear will stop you and you will not go forward because you're too scared to even try, and you don't want to fail, so you don't even try it? In life, there's probably opportunities we all had in this room where we were like, you know what? I don't think I want to do that because I might not be the right person. I'm not smart enough. I don't look good enough. Whatever it is, I don't fit in this group. I don't belong, so I'm not even going to try it. I know I've missed a lot of opportunities because of that, but then on the other side, just going through sports and remembering, oh man, I remember the first time I tried something I wasn't comfortable, but I did it anyway. And then you just keep doing the next step. Okay, I made it this far. What's the next step? I got to figure it out. What's the next step? Don't think too far ahead, right? As a young person, you're not thinking that far ahead. You're in the moment, and you're just going with the emotion. So that's what's great about being a young person and being in athletics, is you learn these emotions and you figure out how to deal with them in the moment, and then you keep building on top of that.
Okay, thank you. And then Dr. Burton, you work with a lot of athletes with their injuries, and that's a big part of the sports, because you have sometimes where you have to take a break, or you're not performing at peak, or oftentimes there's even where you cannot play anymore. How does that affect an athlete?
Thank you. So, I mean, I think that injuries, to me, they're a natural part of sport, right? So we are going to experience injuries, and I think of them as being something that happens kind of out of nowhere, like kind of when those things that, like, unfortunate circumstances, those acute injuries. And then there's also injuries that are more overuse, ones that kind of build up over time. And so those can play, like, those play out in different ways, right? When something comes unexpected and it takes you out of your sport, that's pretty significant disappointment. But I also think of like, well, what opportunities can you have while you're there? And in my world of sports medicine, when somebody comes in with an injury that was really unfortunate and maybe something that's going to take them out of their activity, we have a lot of conversation about, yes, what it is, how we're gonna get it better, but then also like, what can you still do? So you can still like think about your sport mentally. You can do that visualization. You can also think about your some of the other places that you may need to improve. So if you hurt your upper body somewhere, then what can you do in your lower body? What can you do to still be active? One of the most important things to me when I'm working with my athletes is like, what can you do instead of what did this take out from you? And if you think of it in that way and you think about the opportunities that you can gain, lots of times that recovery from the injury happens much more quickly. And people will say they go back and their coaches will be like, what happened? What were you doing there? Because actually you've come out ahead of where you were before because of some of the opportunities that you took while you were recovering. And then I also think about injuries as overuse. So overuse injuries come from doing things repetitively too much. And to me, that's an opportunity because how can we prevent that from happening? So a lot of what I do in my clinic is have some education around like, when you start to notice that something's bothering you, come in early so we can talk about it, so we can do that rehabilitation. It also is an opportunity to work with the coaches and say like, what are these things that you're starting to see patterns in your athletes so that we can figure out a way to actually prevent the injury from happening in the first place, and really look at the details of what they're doing so that we can also then enhance their activity. I think it's actually like I have some athletes who are like throwing athletes especially, and they come in, they'll have like maybe a little bit of elbow pain or shoulder pain, and I think the thing that's really interesting to me is that when they go through their physical therapy and their rehabilitation, they actually end up being better throwers than they were before, and they'll come back and they'll say like, I'm actually like not really feeling that bad. I just kind of want to do that physical therapy again because it made me even better than I was before. And so to me, like injuries, yes, they're super disappointing. I was an athlete myself and had injuries that took me out of situations and some activities that I was super disappointed. But ultimately, I feel like some of the like mental skills that you gain from that, as well as being able to overcome that injury that took place in front of you and build upon what you have like from your mental aspect, but also physical aspect, actually can get you out ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're in this, I guess we're in this post-pandemic, if we can call it post. I don't know where we are exactly in it, but Dr. Monaghan, we understand that there was a lot of psychological effects on not only the young people, but adults as well. And how did that, well, can you talk a little bit about that, first of all, and then I want to come to the coaches and just ask, how did that, coming out of the pandemic, how did that translate to sports?
I can absolutely talk about that, and there's so much. And right, this is something we have all lived and been living. There's so much experience here that I think we can speak to. But I will say, right, mental health needs were on the rise pre-COVID, especially in our youth. So we saw this growing need, and then COVID hit, and that just sort of catapulted everything, right? And there, again, we all lived through this. There's so many different layers to the stress I think we experienced during COVID. What I will say, primarily I heard and continue to hear about from the kids and the teenagers I work with was really the impact of isolation and being pulled from so many things that were so important, or our high schoolers who had these milestones coming up, right? And that all took a turn really quickly. And so just that process of being pulled away from things that are really important from us, maybe not getting to do things that we had been training to do, that we'd been preparing to do, looking forward to doing, and how are we, there were great modifications. We all did the best we could in terms of coming up with an alternative. But that I think is far and above like what I have heard from most families and most kids as being what was really challenging about that year and a half. And I would say to the point of sort of coming back in this post-COVID world and working with people of sort of trying to figure out, like, how do I step back into that? What does that feel like? Do I still feel the same way about these things that I did? I think there's been a theme in what's been said here that's really important to highlight, is that we have these expectations, we have these goals, and then how do we be adaptable when things change? How do we be flexible and keep working, recognizing like maybe that's not what I want anymore, maybe that's not achievable anymore, but then what? What's next? And I think that's a conversation that I'm having all of the time and that I'm hearing around me all of the time, and I'm sure you all are too in your roles.
I can definitely add to that. My time at Lincoln High School, newly opened Lincoln High School, I think this is now in their 4th year. I was the head soccer coach, and we had nothing but freshmen and sophomores coming in during the pandemic. And so to add to what you said, none of us have been through a pandemic before. So we were all going through this at the same time and trying to work through solutions at the same time. The biggest thing I got from kids was just the inconsistency and how disheartened they were from just, I can recall when we had to do the temperature checks, 6 feet, you can't touch your bag, you can't touch the ball, and then the next week it'd be something entirely different. It would take us literally 20 minutes to even start practice, and it wasn't really a practice. It was really just getting the kids out of the house, allowing some movement, wearing a mask, right? Sure, we all had to deal with that. I can just recall, like, we'd start the game off, practice with mask, and they're down at your chin. And we're yelling at kids to put masks on, and it's outside. There was confusion. I guess that's the biggest thing I can say that the kids had. And for me personally, it helped me to recognize that as an adult and a leader for these kids, that we need to come up with some instant solutions, you know. We couldn't go back to the way it was. I'm a big Marvel and comic book fan. I felt like the pandemic was the Thanos snap, right? You know, half the people were gone, and we came back to a whole different world. And what did this world look like? It's different. I've been saying the quote, "a square peg in a round hole." We can't go back to the same thing again. We need to come up with some different, diverse, and creative solutions in order to to prosper and to allow us to just come back to some type of normalcy. So, as a coach, really, like I said, the confusion aspect of it, but, having to still be that pillar as an adult, as a leader, as a coach, and finding solutions, it's actually been fun post-pandemic, actually, because, again, I think a lot of ideas and solutions that pre-pandemic weren't even on the table. Now all of a sudden it's what was that idea you had, Gabe? So yeah, definitely in that mess.
I think for me, I actually see motivation. I see more motivation to come out. What happened when people lost that opportunity to participate in sports? They lost their therapy session. Their teammates were their support group. Their coach was their therapist. They lost that environment, and they lost that drive. They lost that dopamine rush that came with them working hard and getting whatever that win it means. And so I actually see now there's a lot of folks that maybe had sat out before because there was sports and even, physical education. A lot of stuff had stopped being recognized as something that needs to be like a high value item in the schools and in the community. So when those city programs or rec programs, those school programs started diminishing, students youth didn't have places to go. And those that did that were able to participate at an elite level, they had that as well, but it kind of shuffled the deck a little bit and made things a lot different for folks. And a lot of folks said, I'm just gonna sit out. A lot of those developmental leagues and programs weren't as accessible. So now that, I'll say that season has passed, I see folks finding the value, both parents and young people finding the value in, let me find something I can be a part of, let me find a skill that I can work on, something to get me out the house, because for a while, everyone was on lockdown, pretty much. So just having that freedom to express, interest and working hard for something, working collectively with other people with the common goal, I think is something that I've seen, and I appreciate. I'm currently the head coach at Raineer Beach. I also was the head coach at Garfield for a handful of years, and now I see more people coming out than I ever have before.
And then there's the challenges that are off the field. We talk about how sports will help us prepare for life's challenges. And especially when you're playing competitive sports, you are held to a certain standard and you're expected to come in and perform. And I always say young people are, they're not just children, but they're little adults. And so the same way that adults have problems and we face certain challenges in our lives, they do as well. And sometimes we find adults to kind of like belittle that and say, oh, you just a child. Oh, that's just puppy love. We had an opportunity this week to go to the memorial of one of the community members who was shot and killed in the Central District area here in Seattle, Devon Pickett Jr. And he was the head coach of the CD Panthers, a young football team, and they were in the middle of championships. So they just lost their head coach, and not only the head coach, but even his son was on the team, and they needed to go, and they were expected to still go and play. So that's just one of the challenges. What are some of the other challenges that some of our young people face outside of the playing field and are still expected to come and perform?
I could take it. I ain't scared. So, just like you said, similar to that story is you had that going on through the whole pandemic, right? We weren't able to see our elders because they were quarantined away. And then we lost some of our elders and we didn't get to be by their side. And you've lost uncles, you've lost aunts, you've lost cousins through that whole pandemic, and the whole family is suffering through that. And the connection, the distance is forced. You want to be there, but you're trying to keep everybody safe. So we had a forced distance within our own families. And so jobs were lost. Normalcy was lost. And so you have all these folks trying to figure out how to just make it through all that. Now coming into to the post-pandemic, we're still affected by that. We still now have to deal with everything that happened during the pandemic because we didn't get to deal with it during the pandemic. And so we have to still figure out mentally and emotionally how to deal with that, all while still having responsibilities. We still have to pay the rent. We still have to keep the roof over our head. We still have to figure out where we're going to get food from. But now everybody's hurt. Everybody's been traumatized. And we're not necessarily speaking to that. Through school, right? A place where students are expected to be. I was a teacher that whole time. We went from in-person to online. More disconnection, more chaos. It wasn't set up to be a distance learning. So now we're bringing everybody back to in-person. And students, adults have lost those years of development and experiences. And so now students are coming in with less experience where they should have been maybe mentally, emotionally up here. Now they're at a lower experience level and a lower emotional level, and so but we still have the same expectations on them to perform the same way, which is really wild. As adults, our employers have the same expectations for us to perform at these same levels, which doesn't match what we just came through, right? So the system has to catch up to actually where the people are at. And the people have to stand up and speak louder to what our needs are. Because in America, I feel like our values are based on performance and work, where a lot of other countries value family and connection and health and a unity, where it's more than a singular person. It's all together. So here, it's always production and money. Keep the system going.
I like that you said that about values, because I think the root of everything is, and the root of our fulfillment in our life is us aligning with our core values and knowing and recognizing what those are. And I think a major piece of that, because you talked about expectations, I say a challenge off the field. Most often, what I've seen, I've been a youth competitive athlete, competed through college, was a competitive athlete there. I coached, I parent competitive athletes. There's a theme, and that theme involves parents. And often, off the field, something that can challenge and trigger a lot of our young people is really our parents' expectation of them. Most often, it's the parent expectation and the pressure that comes with the parent wanting to fulfill their expectation of their young person. And so I just challenge everyone, myself included as parents, to really be there and cultivate and support the goals that our children have for their careers. Be there for them, support them, and understand that it's good, it's okay to be vulnerable. A lot of times folks talk about balancing and not, they use the word balance as in you shouldn't put your eggs in one basket. I don't believe in that. I believe in that if there's something that you want to go for, and this is with life, you put everything aside, do everything you can to get there. And then if it doesn't work, it's not that there won't be disappointment that comes, but most often, true disappointment and regret is what you didn't do. It's not what you did do and didn't work. It's what you didn't do. So I think that aligning with parents that are a support system and encouraging them, but not demanding a certain expectation. Because once that is lifted, what I've seen and what I've experienced is that when that is lifted, our young people are able to flourish and get even further in their careers or whatever goals they have. So I think that's a big point of it, and it's us parents holding ourselves accountable to where we fall in line in that.
And I think the coaches and Dr. Burton, with you working with the young people, coming in and having that hands-on experience or that time with them, it gives you an opportunity to also kind of like talk to them and, you know, just see where their head is, and like how important is it to use that opportunity to have conversations, and how open do they become?
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, my favorite part of my job is those interactions that we have on a daily basis with our patients, and really helping them open up and have a real conversation about how they're feeling inside from a physical perspective, but also from an emotional perspective. And sometimes I serve a role as almost like a facilitator between the patient and their parents or their guardians, to be able to express, like, you know, what is it that they're feeling inside that they may not be able to express and share in a different setting. And so I think that what I've found, especially kind of as we're coming out of COVID, but even before that, is that the ability to participate in a physical activity, to be able to be in a sport, it's also like bringing, it's the opportunity for their identity. It's an opportunity for them to have pride in something that they're doing. It's an opportunity for connection. And I think that's one of the biggest losses that I saw like over COVID, is that people felt really like their connection, their family, that community they have was instantly gone. And that brought a lot of sadness to our young athletes, and not being able to have that time where their support system and their coach or and their fellow teammates was there for them. So I guess what I would say is that I also think about, as a physician, like the opportunity to be a mentor. And I think I don't always think about that, but then I realize it like when we're in this conversation of like, it's an opportunity as an adult to be able to have a conversation and to see where we can take what they're saying and also help to build and guide them into what they're going to do next. And I think about as coaches that, like, whether a coach wants to be or not, they're a mentor. And like, I mean, we all think of it. I think of coaches that I had growing up. I was a gymnast, coaches that truly inspired me and believed in me and supported me to be able to overcome some pretty challenging situations. And I can also think of coaches that weren't those people, and that's unfortunate that they weren't able to provide that. And now I look at it in my children and those interactions that they're having in their practices and with their teammates and with their coaches, and that opportunity where they're really like inspiring and uplifting them. So I guess I kind of went away from that question, but I just think about that it's like, I actually usually leave my clinic almost every day feeling inspired by somebody, by what they've told me and how excited they are and how motivated they are to be able to be active. And it almost feels to me more like a partnership rather than like they're there to see me and to give them a diagnosis. I think of it more as we're having a conversation and we're building and we're connecting and we're coming up with a plan together that supports their goals and their dreams, and even like a little nudge sometime to be able to like reach for what they're looking for.
Thank you. And then Dr. Monaghan, we do have these opportunities to have these conversations with young people, and I know that just from my personal experience, again, just being in that space with the adults who I trust, or being the adult that other young people trust. And trust me, like, sometimes they'll talk to you, and I'm like, no, don't tell me that. Like, I'm not ready. But it's important to be there for them. But we also understand that there are young people that may not share certain things. I want to share some statistics that I found. According to the CDC, in 2020, suicide was the second leading cause of death amongst individuals between the ages of 10 and 14. And the third leading cause of death for individuals between the ages of 25 and 34, and it was the 10th cause of death for children 5 to 9 years old. There were nearly 2 times as many suicides in the United States as there were homicides. And 1 in 6 youth ages 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses begin by the age of 14. So a lot of times young people are going through things and we don't know it. And I even came across a story of a star athlete who committed suicide, and when they spoke to the family, to the coaches, everyone said, oh, we thought she was thriving. And so what are some of the signs that we can look for, both as parents, as community members, the village, the coaches? What are some of the signs that we can look for, especially when the young people aren't saying anything?
That's such a great question, and I will get to that, and I want to start that I think of these things in layers, right? Like, what can we do to respond, but also what can we do to prevent, and how can we be sort of more universal? And I think, you know, we're seeing this change of building in social-emotional curriculum or social-emotional learning into every aspect of different systems that our kids exist in, which is great, right? We are human beings. We experience emotions, and when we're together, we are socializing regardless of where we are or how we're showing up. So I think about that as an intervention strategy. How are we just checking in with our kids preemptively, right? How are we connecting, especially recognizing, to your point, that we, as adults and as mentors, we get the opportunity to connect in different ways, and we can have huge influence in that. And how are we just asking kids, how are we doing, or how they're doing? How are we checking in to make sure we know what's going on in their lives ahead of it, right? But to get to your question of signs, I think very just universally, if something feels off, if there is a change, right? If you notice that kids are pulling back from things that are important to them, or if their mood, if they're affected, if they're just showing up in a way that feels different. So if there's any sort of fluctuation or change from what we're used to seeing these kids doing, what we're used to seeing them, you know, how they're emotionally responding to things looks different, it's a really good opportunity to just check in. And it goes back, because as we were talking here, right, we have this idea of expectations. We have expectations, and sometimes things get in the way. And I talk to kids all the time about, you know, there's this stigma, really, right, that exists around talking about our mental health, around talking about how we're doing and how we're feeling. But if you were going through a physical injury, or if you had a physical illness, that would be something that you would probably talk to people about, right? You might go to see your doctor, you might get a checkup about it, you might just check in with adults. And I think to the extent that we can normalize the same thing for how we're doing emotionally is just going to make us all more connected, all stronger, and it's gonna get us more to that prevention standpoint.
Thank you. Coach Lenny, you create a safe space for young people. I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you do to create that safe space, and what are some other things that we all can do to kind of create a safe space for young people?
Great question. So I'm a parent, so going through like that check-in with your kids, I didn't do it that great. I'm also grew up as an athlete doing my own thing. I didn't have a lot of mentorship, but I made it. And then my son also grew up and was able to participate in athletics and made it to a high level as well. And he made it to the University of Washington, made the football team. Yay! We made it. But what I didn't know was that he wasn't really feeling it, right? Everybody all around him is like, oh, yeah, you did it, like, let's go. And then I didn't know that he was struggling just trying to be fully present in it. Until one day he brought it up, and he was telling me that, he was like, you know what, Dad? Like, I don't know how to talk to you about this. I've been holding it in. And of course, he told his mom about it first. Like, I get everything last. All the emotional stuff he tells mom first, right? And then so I get it last. And then so he says, like, I don't think this is for me. And I was like, first I'm like, what? Like, what you mean it's not for you? This is you got this. And I'm excited for him to have the opportunity that I have, and it's not all great. Like, being an athlete it sucks, it's horrible, but it also can be one of the best things at the same time. Greatest and worst experiences in your life. So he's at the level where it's the greatest and worst experience. And as an athlete, if you don't love what you're doing, if this is something that you don't love, like with all who you are, then you shouldn't, it's not something that you should force yourself or force your children to do. It's not something where you want to, like, no, suck it up, right? He made it to college. I just wanted him to go somewhere where he can figure out his path and have resources and continue on. I'm happy with that. We had that conversation. It was a very hard conversation, especially for him, because he didn't know how I was going to take it, because he thought that maybe I would disown him. Like, he really thought I was not gonna love him for saying that to me. And I was like, why would you think that? And it made me think about, like, what is the messaging that I've been sending to him that I didn't maybe know I was sending to him? Because I always thought I was a supportive parent. I pushed him, but I didn't force him to do anything. Like, bro, you don't have to play sports. But he always did. And we took him to places, put money on it, drove him everywhere. We put time and money, right? And so, but he did it because he wanted to please Dad. And I was like, it's not about you. It's like, you do what you gotta do. I'm always proud of you. You play football, but that's not who you are. That's the thing you do. If you quit your job, I'm not gonna disown you, right? So.
Thank you. Thank you. And there's 2 points that you brought up. So one is the part about, we talked a little bit about this, the whole identity thing and not allowing this to be your only identity or to define you. And but the other part of it is I think your son is privileged to have a dad like you who's able to support him no matter what and to be able to guide him outside of into this new chapter of whatever he decides to choose. But there are a lot of young people who don't get that. You know, there's a lot of young people who are told, well, listen, you have to play sports. You have to do well because you need this scholarship and this is the only way you're gonna go to college, or we need you to go to the NFL and make that money to take care of our family. And they carry this weight with them to, like, as adults. And you see them navigating and, you know, they're still trying to figure out themselves and how to do this. And again, so they may be 30 years old, 10 years in a league, and still hate it, but they feel that this is the only way, this is the only thing that they can do. So one, I want to talk to the panel and anybody jump in with how do we create that, how do we allow them to, or how do we support an identity outside of their athletic ability? And then, so yeah, let's start with that.
Okay, I want to add that I think the biggest point is that ultimately, for those that are parents or those that, I'll say, serve in a parental role, because you don't have to be a parent to be in a parental role. Knowing that our goal for our young people and the people we care about is we want them to be the best person they can be. We know that, you know, when it's all said and done, we want them to enjoy their life. We want them to live a fulfilled life, not one of regret, not one of disappointment. And I think I would say in sports, who you are still shows. So your commitment, your discipline, your drive, your hard work, sometimes, like he said, it may be something we do, but who we are shows up in everything we do. So a lot of times, having that connection with those young people, for instance, that I coach, they're going through tons of things off the field or off the track. But if you can relate it to something they're dealing in the track, like you were able to overcome this and you were able to do this, what were the skills, where did you pull from? Give them those tools, then they flourish. So if they make a decision to pursue something, even if the odds are against them, whatever it may be, and they get to a point where maybe they're like, this isn't for me, they're not giving up on themselves. They don't feel like they're giving up on themselves. So that's two separate things. There's those values, that value system, that work ethic, that drive, that goal setting, that sacrifice, the discipline, all that comes with everyone who's became a great athlete. Yes, obviously there's talent. Those other components are involved as well. If you can identify that those very things can apply to other areas in your life, I think making that correspondence, and I think a lot of times people think they have to choose. Young people think they have to choose. Adults think young people have to choose. And I think opening that up so they know why them participating in sports, why them working hard, or whatever they experienced when they were cut, or whatever they experienced when they didn't make a team, or whatever they experienced when they didn't win that championship game. How is that going to be used to help them beyond the sport? So I don't like to take away the sport, because I think it's something that people think when things aren't going their way, that means it's not for them. But that's life. That's like with any life move, career move. You learn what can you pull from those experiences to help you outside of that experience. And then you know that experience was worth it. It's not worth it if you didn't gain. It's what? Win or learn, never lose.
Yeah, to add to that, committing to the process, getting our kids to commit to the process, I think in the Western world, our kids see so many different ways of life, so many different avenues now, way more than we did, just because of media, and it can be daunting to try and make a decision to land on what you want to do. I'll use my kids as an example. I was a standout athlete. I do keep a foundational, like you said, Nicole, of sports. That's what I know, because that's where I channel my energy. But seeing their multitude of talents, my kids are both drawers, their poetry, swimming. There's a multitude of different interests that they have that I'd like to support, because that's part of me too as well. Those are things that I wasn't able to manifest till later in my life, based on just what we talk about, feeling like I only had that avenue of sports to channel my energy or to express myself. I think it's an exciting time for young kids now, because they do have so many choices. I'm speaking to my daughter now about, finding ways to monetize your talents, I see kids making money off of the most mundane of things right now, and they're enjoying themselves. They get the attention. It's hard work. Being a content creator. All of these words we hear now, our kids now are at the forefront of that. And I was also thinking about what you're speaking of with coming out of the mental aspect. I've always relied on the four universals, which is sports, math, food, and music. Those things bring people together. You don't have to speak the same language. They bring people together, very much sociable. And they allow us to, again, come together for something positive. In terms of our kids, we really just need to open up our ears and listen a little bit more. There's so many distractions right now that keep everyone in their own pocket. I'm watching Netflix, you're watching Hulu, you're doing this, I'm doing that. When do we come together to actually watch something together, do something together, listen to each other, not just listen, but hear and understand where a person is coming from, what perspective they're coming from. It's a real important time right now for us to really listen to our kids, listen to each other, and use this time for healing.
I was just going to add, like in a sports medicine perspective, we think a lot about early sports specialization. That's like a really hot topic in the sports medicine world. And that's, when I was growing up, I was a gymnast, and I think I was like the only person who practiced all year round. I was like the weird kid who was like, couldn't go to summer camp because I was doing gymnastics instead. And I loved it, and I enjoyed, and I think I learned a lot from gymnastics. But now every sport is that way, so you really could do it all year round without any breaks. And one of the things we really found is like that the early diversification, meaning that like you're trying, like the sports sampling, we're trying a lot of different things when they're younger, and then naturally you kind of do build towards an area where you may specialize or not. I think also gives an opportunity to like use different body parts, interact with different people, to be around different coaches, different communities. And from all of that, that helps also build identity. And so that identity isn't necessarily focused on just one aspect. I say that, and I also have a little gymnast, of course, who's at practice right now, and she loves it. And I have had this conversation in my head of like, how do I make sure that she doesn't only have that as her own identity of being the little gymnast? And it's hard because she's the one flipping on the playground and everybody's like, there's Mila, the gymnast, you know? And so, I mean, that is part of who she is learning to be, but I also like, she's in the backstage crew now, like for the drama rehearsal, and made that opportunity available because I think also being able to have other interactions and knowing that like that isn't the only important thing about her. I also think it's that conversations that we have as parents or guardians with the kids around their work, right? So when my kids come home from their practices, I learned through kind of a challenging summer with my younger daughter and some fear issues that me asking her about details of her practice just purely out of curiosity and thinking that I'm like, you know, like engaging in something she loved, to her felt like pressure in her 7-year-old mind. And we had this really interesting interaction where like, thank goodness, like even at the age of 7, she's able to express that like, that actually felt to her like I was like going to be critiquing her. I wanted to know for some reason. So now she comes home like, how was your day? And it feels a little weird, I will tell you, that sometimes I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on there? And I get videos from our coaches. I'm like, I didn't even know you could do that. But I appreciate that, like, instead we just talk about, like, you know, things happen in the day, things that she's excited about with both of my kids. And it's less about, like, the details of that sport or whatever they were doing and more about, like, how they felt with different things they did. So then kind of taking away that pressure of, like for some reason, their expectation that I'm talking to them about that. And then I was just gonna add one other thing that I learned this summer in my interactions with my daughter that I knew, but I think really hit home. And they were around just also the developmental age of the athlete, right? I think that a lot of times not you guys as coaches, because I know you're all wonderful, but some coaches don't remember that like their little kids, like my daughter wants to get stickers when she does really well because she's 7, but she's also competing at a decently high level for her age. But like the most excited thing she's excited about, she's like, I got a sticker today. And like, she needs to get stickers because she's 7. And like, even though she's doing crazy stuff in gymnastics, she needs to get a sticker. Or sometimes she needs to get a little bracelet or something. And jump in the foam pit and play with stuffed animals. Like, so it's also remembering that like we're meeting them at the age where they are developmentally. And even though there may be some kids who have a lot of talent and you're like, whoa, like this is really exciting. And we want to like, and as a parent or as a coach, we want to like, we're like, whoa, this kid is like special. They have something. We have to remember that they want to play. They want to play little games, and we have to like meet them at their developmental milestone. And I actually think if we do that, we can nurture them and help them grow and their talents will speak for themselves because we'll have like helped them in that way.
Thank you.
Can I add one more thing on top of that?
Okay, good.
All right. Just to add, on top of that too, I have a martial arts gym, and so I have kids of all ages, right? Young kids, older kids, adults, and working with youth that are in the system, juvenile, and through all those different ages, it's giving them a place to go that's safe, supportive, and without expectations. I don't want to hear, this is the kid, I don't want to hear about my career, I don't want to be a professional at this, I just want to have fun. Like, I might be performing at a certain level that's higher than other kids, but don't talk to that. Talk to the fun, to the spirit, to just experiencing life. And through those experiences, what did you learn? What happened? It's simple. It's really simple. What happened? But you have to be deliberate about the conversation and the questions you ask about the experience. So finding them places where they can go explore things at whatever age. They might not like it. Okay, tell me why you don't like it. Let's go find something else. But keep giving them those opportunities If they're an athlete and that you know they're good at something, you could keep working on that, but also give them something where there's no expectations. You're not all deep in conversation and telling them they have to do this and this. Just ask them what's going on. Did you have fun at the gym? Did you get punched in the face? Did you punch somebody in the face? Oh, really? What happened? Right? You were crying. I saw that you were crying. Why were you crying? Like, help them understand their feelings and emotions. Did they get to beat up the teacher today? Oh, they love beating up the teacher, right? So they're just having fun. And then through that fun, no expectation place, they'll talk to you. And no matter what age it is, they'll talk to you. Even if the kids, if they're not even doing what the other people in the class is doing, they might be, everybody else is doing this and they're off looking out the window doing something, that's okay. They're still having fun. And they're still being physical, they're still being in a safe place. And as they get older, being able to provide that safe place for them to just talk to you about whatever they want to talk to you about through natural, whatever the environment is offering, that's what it is. All you have to do is say, what happened, why, tell me more. They'll tell you.
Dr. Manangan, as we're wrapping up the conversation, I want to, I'd like for you to talk to not only the parents, but also some of the young people who are here, who are tuned in, and just give, like, what are some tools that we can use to help our young people or help ourselves? And when you talk to the young people, of course, you're going to be talking to the parents, because we all need tools to get through this thing called life. What are some of the tools that we can use to maintain a healthy mindset?
I will try to be as brief as I can on this, but I think just this ties into what you were just saying, is we have this strategy, goal that we often talk about with caregivers of 5 minutes a day of child or teenage directed time. So when we think about our kids' experiences in their average day-to-day, like, there is so much adult directed activity, right? Like, this is, you have to be here at this time, and then here's the agenda, and here's your schedule today. But we talk about the value of just spending 5 minutes a day with kids, just doing what you were just describing, of like, I'm here and you get to lead this interaction. For our little kids, what do you want to play with? How do you want to play with it? What rules do you want to make? For our older kids, sometimes it's really just letting them lead the conversation, and there's so much value in that in and of itself, of just that being able to understand more, right? We get so much information about how kids are doing, about how things are going when we make the space for it. And so I think that sort of launches into your question of, like, opening space for conversation and to ask questions and to really let our kids take the lead on telling us how things are going, where stress lies, where fear lies, where sadness lies in their lives, so that we can step in and guide and support. And guiding and supporting can look lots of different ways. And I think we've all been there as people. Like, sometimes we don't need people to solve our problems. We just need to say it out loud. And we just need people to sit there with us and say, that is a really hard thing you're going through. And that in and of itself can be huge. But other times, like, these conversations will lend to, and how can I help, right? How can we problem solve that together? What can we think about? What can we do? So I think that is something that gets us there. We always talk about whole health, right? And we know that taking care of our physical health, getting active, getting good sleep, making sure that we're connecting with other people, that we're doing things that lean into our values, that these are parts of our whole wellness too, and they certainly have huge impact on our mental or emotional health as well. So to the extent that we can, to make sure that we're taking care of those areas in our day-to-day life. We've had a lot of conversation today about expectation and the stress sometimes that comes with expectation. So being able to, again, have those conversations and have some flexibility too of, and what can we do if it doesn't go that way? Or what is the learning through it going another path? So I think there's many things we can do, but many of them can just be built into everyday life and everyday practice.
Thank you, and I want to piggyback off of something that Coach Petty talked about when she talked about being vulnerable with the young people as well. And of course, you know, you give them as much information as you feel that they can handle, but it's also important for us to share our stories as well, to let them know that we are going through things, to let them know when we had challenges, again, both on and off the field. When you talk about your son and him not wanting to play and being able to say, well, there was a moment where I didn't want to, and this is how I got through that. And just, again, just being open and honest with our young people, because they learn from conversations with us as well. And if they see us not only understanding that, one, we go through things too, but they see us handling it and thriving as well, is really important, and it encourages them. So, so are we doing questions from the audience? Okay, so we're gonna move to the audience. If you guys have any questions for our panelists, please raise your hand. And we have someone coming around with the microphone to you.
I'd like to add a quick story. It just fits in perfectly because it's in real time. It dealt with my third grade class at my son's school. I'm a PE teacher. And I dealt with the same problem of feeling like we're coming out of this pandemic and these kids are coming from so many different perspectives, so many different energies. In this particular class, there's 25 kids in the class. I want to say there's 4 different groups that splinter off as soon as they get into the class. And I was completely frustrated like the first 2 weeks. It took me we had a 40-minute class. It took at least 15 minutes to get to what we were gonna do for the lesson, just to get them under control, just to get them to explain the lesson. And again, when I go back to creative solutions, I recognized the leader in the class, Henry. You know what, Henry? What do you wanna do today? Well, I got something. Well, if you can get them under control and get a game going, let's do it. This is what I need to see. I need to see cooperation. I need to see movement, and I need to see you guys having fun. Can you do that? Sure, coach. I kid you not, amazing. He explained the game in 3 minutes. The kids played the game for the rest of the 20 minutes. So I said, well, first of all, like you said too, I'm a well-spinner experience, so I can't let you teach the class the entire time. I have thousands of games, I can go through. Yet, if you have a game, let me have a game. The next week, the very same thing happened. I let Henry lead the class. Game went on, I was able to get a game in at the end. My point on that is, yeah, we really do have to get creative and start hearing our kids a lot more. They have a really high IQ. And these are third graders I'm talking about. And I got more production out of them than some of my middle schoolers, honestly. And so, yeah, we really need to pay respects to the fact that our kids are ingesting way more information than we did. We need to be there to guide them, I appreciate you, Lenny, for that emotion. I'm the same way with my son, too. It's like, I'll support you whenever you want to do, man. Don't try and follow Dad's footsteps. You're going to hear a lot about my sports career. I don't expect you to follow that. I expect you to follow your heart. I expect you to follow what you are most, capable of doing, and I'll support you in every way. Yeah.
Thank you.
At this time, we just want to ask if there's anyone who had any questions for the panel. Raise your hand. We'll bring the mic over to you so you can ask your question.
Hello. I want to thank all of you as a panel for what you bring not only to our kids but also to our communities. And I want to ask you all if you appreciate the importance of the space the sport creates for kids to come together. Not even the sport itself, not even the activity, not even the winning or losing, but the space that you all make for kids to form a community of their own. Just like you're talking about, Gabe, about being able to thrive. So how much of thriving comes from children being able to be who they are and where they are, and how much of that being able to be who you are and where you are, especially in light of the post-pandemic, when we were kind of cut off from being able to just join in a group of people, a community. So how much of your, I just want to know how much you, as people who are sports and sports enthusiasts and sports experts, how much you appreciate your impact on forming community, and how you could speak to that for you personally or for the teams that you coach or teach.
I'm not a coach, but I've just watched it in my patients, but I watched it in my kids. And I would say that, like, what was interesting, I have 2 daughters, and one of them was able to return to her sport because they allowed that. Like, she was on a club team, and they were able to get together. And my other daughter does circus, and so, like, performing arts kind of sport. And they really, like, were really strict with the COVID regulations, and they came together probably later than most people. And to watch the difference in, like, their mental health was pretty significant. My daughter that got to be in person and be with her friends and to the interactions was so huge. And to watch my other daughter who, like, was still doing things through Zoom and all of that, and to watch her really, really miss the interactions with her friends and building those connections, and then and bring out, I think, some challenges that I still think of as grateful, because I feel like we were able to address them at a younger age, and we'll be able to work through them. But then to watch her thrive as they came back together was pretty significant, and just the joy in being able to see each other. Like, I don't think that I necessarily heard when she came home, like, what they did. I heard about, like, this person is doing that and the conversations that they had, and, like, being able to have that connection. It was just like watching it before our eyes. And I certainly saw that in my patients too, of the ones who were not able to be with their community of friends and the ones that were actually able to interact. Pretty significant difference in their mental health and how they were feeling.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I actually find a lot of value. Since I moved back to Seattle 15 years ago, I've been coaching. And to this day, folks that I coached 15 years ago, we're still in close relationship with, and they are in close relationship with each other. So they're at each other's weddings. They're involved in meetup when they are in town if they've moved away. So I just value, I find a lot of value because it's making these connections real time, but also those connections for their future. And so I really value it, and I didn't recognize it as time was going on. I just was being myself. I was cultivating an environment that I thought was important, and the seeds were planted, and I see it now. So I'm grateful because it is like no other. You know, when you talk about reunions, some of my former teams still have reunions to this day.
And I just want to add, I so appreciate that question, because I think it is tempting or easy to sort of diminish sort of what this means, or what impact and influence we can have in these settings. And in looking at, you know, child development and looking long term, and we look at sort of what are the risk factors, what are protective factors, recognizing there's lots of things that can influence kids' development in different ways. For years, right, it has come back to one connection, just one, whether that be with a supportive adult, a friendship, a team, an activity, that has huge positive impact on our kids, and it's just one. So we all have the ability to be that one point of connection for another person.
I find that as well too. Like, we're facilitators as much as we are educators. I tend to think that, well, I'll take this was Coach Beck. This was our track coach, rest in peace. I actually coach his grandson. His name's Daryl Nicole. And still one of my top 2 coaches all time. And he used to tell me a coach's job, the 2 main jobs, is to inspire and to teach technical skill. They go hand in hand. You know, I always tell my kids, like, there's a fire burning inside of you. I didn't start the fire. I'm here to just churn it, right? I'm here to just show you how to keep that fire burning. And so, you know, inspiring our kids, that's a job that is really, you know, specific to coaches. Because I get parents all the time, I don't know, I say the same thing to my kid all the time, Gabe. When you say it to him, some reason he does it. I take pride in that, you know. One little point about tools. Meditation in this time and mindfulness is really important for our young kids. they are drawn out of themselves every day. You know, our devices, I was just talking to my mother the other day. I was like, just look at the word device. It's divisive. It takes us away from ourselves. It takes us out of our elements. Mindfulness and meditation, I do that with my groups, my kids. I actually had a great group during the pandemic when I was working at an after-school enrichment at a local church. And I found out even just trying to give them a chance to do sports willy-nilly, free all day, it wasn't doing it. They were still having conflicts. They still weren't able to express themselves fully. When I opened up a social circle, just to allow them to talk freely, just to moderate it, and mindfulness, all of that quelled. And so, you know, some of the tools coming out of this pandemic, post-pandemic, really is mindfulness and social emotional awareness.
Thank you. Any more questions back here? Yeah.
Hello. I'd also like to thank you guys for coming out. I noticed each one of you guys are probably going to have a unique perspective on this, but my question to you is, if there's any changes you think can and or need to be done in our kind of education system, whether that's in terms of resources or structure to better support student athletes, and especially those who participate in sports that aren't generally in those school systems.
We got another hour?
Right.
So I'll just say a few things. I'll say that there's a lot of work to be done. I'm not the athletic director, but I do support athletics at Raineer Beach as well as other schools in the Metro League and beyond. I think there needs to be that same connection and that same push in regards to social emotional, in regards to race and equity. I think that physical wellness, that athletic wellness needs to be up there because it ties all these things in together. And that's for students of all abilities, inclusive of all abilities. And I think a lot of that has to do with, I'll say, funding and our city, our community centers, our organizations that are getting the kids to come out, getting these young people to come out. If there's an alliance amongst them to really push for this purpose, then I think we're powerful. When it comes to STEM, when it comes to other areas, folks put their money where their mouth is. And so I would say if folks start putting their money where their mouth is in regards to, we know the benefits that can come from youth participation in sports, how are we making sure that everyone's able to participate and encouraging them in a safe, supportive, organized environment to participate? I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah, also I would say more in the mental realm of athletics, and emotional realm, mental and emotional, and focusing on the relationships more than actually the athletics themselves, because a lot of times we lose ourselves in wanting to be the #1 school or the championship team or this or that, the titles, right? We get caught up in titles in a lot of ways. And so developing those pipelines that are healthy pipelines, and speaking to me personally, I feel like identity is a huge one because we focus so much on the children. Again, you're this, that, you know, they get rewarded for that. They get everything around them that happens that's good is because maybe they're playing that sport, when at home, you know, things are unstable and there's not enough food, or I don't have enough clothes, I wear the same shoes every day. But for sports, everything is going great. And so if that's the only thing that they have, then that's dangerous, because when the grades are not where they need to be because nobody stressed the importance or taught them the skills that it takes to maintain good grades and why that's important, then they're not going to be able to play sports. And if mentally they can't handle emotional things that are going on, and they, sports is gone, then who are they? Now you get into the depression, an injury happens, you get into the depression. Everything around them was evolved around sports, and nobody taught them who they are separately from being an athlete. That's dangerous, and I feel like we are kind of doing our youth a disservice right now.
Thank you. I think we have one more question from the audience.
Hi, you guys have, are done an amazing job of explaining some of the benefits of working with our young people, our young citizens. As I'm a marriage and family therapist, I kind of specialize in neurolinguistics and all kinds of things. And one of the things that I've learned is our culture does not support nurturing, physical nurturing. Making sure that you give not just your children, but the grandparents, everybody should be receiving some sort of nurturing, physical nurturing. Thank you. A neck massage, head massage, you sit them in a chair and give them 5 minutes of that. Will go a long way for making the child feel supported. You might not say the right things, but when you're nurturing them regularly or 2 or 3 times a week, come get your neck massage. Come get your foot massage. Come get your back massage, whatever. Do it to the children, especially after they're able to bathe themselves and they don't get normal nurturing. Let them get it at home so they're not seeking it out in the street. Give it to grandparents. Let the children give it to the grandparents. Massage the hands and the feet, that kind of thing. It's nurturing in mental, emotional health. That's what I suggest.
Thank you. And we talked a little bit about what the schools can do and what are some other things that the school can do. And we also talked about being vulnerable and how important that is. So I threw that in because it's a little bit of a trick question as well, because I want to flip it now and I want to ask the panelists, because this is a Seattle Children's and Odessa Brown's Children's Clinic event. And we want to make sure that not only the community is supported, but you all as well who are working with these young people. So what is something that you can use in order to support you at doing your jobs?
Food. Yeah, good food, snacks. Yeah, definitely that. Not to say necessarily that kids aren't eating at home. I think there's abundance of food, but not the right food or at the right time. I do have kids that play for snacks, that play for food, and I come out of my own pocket to make sure that they have really good food. I would even say again, having specialists come on site. Max Hunter, he's been excellent at really supporting me where I'm at and not trying to extract me out of my element to get me to come someplace else. I'm comfortable where I'm at. Why? Because it's near my house. These are kids I know. I had the privilege of just this year I'm 45, this was the first kid I've coached since kindergarten and see him graduate from Garfield. It was, and the more I'm, so to speak, blooming where I'm planted, I'm enjoying it even more. I don't want to go outside of the place I'm at. I have all the talent I need within my neighborhood. So bringing a specialist, like you said, ma'am, coming to give a massage, coming to give a counsel session, coming to run a meditation, coming to give a Kuja workout, all of those, I feel like if we start supporting each other where we're at, that holistic healing, that holistic health will start to come full circle.
It also add providing the gifts that a lot of talents that we have in this community working together. I would say getting support and access to facilities. I think that's a big barrier now. I coach, I also personal train, and sometimes it's having access. Where can I go? Where can I go? What field do I have access? What gym do I have access to? And just opening that up, I think would be good, getting access, doing some partnerships, maybe coming together funding-wise and creating spaces for that, I think would be amazing.
Yeah, I was just going to add that the collaboration, actually, I want all of you to come with our King County Play Equity Coalition, because that's really it really is a space of collaboration with all of our communities and our people in our community who are doing what you guys do. And it's been really enlightening and powerful to me to be a part of a group that is really working for the common goal of being able to provide access for everyone and understanding the barriers that exist. And it feels like such a great space of collaboration. So I think collaboration comes to mind for me, and then honestly just support. And Max, again, has been so supportive of me, and I think that I think we all have a passion for being able to interact with kids in sports in whatever capacity we are, and being able to really thrive in that space by the support that we get from each other and from people that we work with to allow us to really continue to grow our passion and collaborate with wonderful people like are here today is what I think helps us, I think, to continue when it's been challenging these past several years. So I think that is what feels good. And then I guess obviously I would also say like being able to also be active in our own ways, like that to me, like from a mental health space is like my personal activity is like my joy, and being able to also share that with my kids is like, that's like, keeps me thriving.
My thought is it just aligns with what's been said here already. I think we are stronger and we are more effective when we partner together, when we leverage each other's expertise or resources or experiences. And I find it that sometimes we're doing duplicative work, right? We're doing things that other people are doing, and if we just did them together, we could take this to the next level, really. And I think getting organized around that, right? And just having more organization really is the way I think of it around those activities. Because, right, I know at Odessa Brown we talk about and we think about and we value all the time that, yes, we want to care for the kids we see, and we want to care for the kids that we don't see, who don't come through our clinic walls in the exact same way and just as much. And of course, that just takes a little more coordination and creativity of how to do that.
I would say that I work in two different spaces on purpose. I work in education with outreach because it gives me access to families, and that's where my passion is. And a lot of those families have the same shared experiences that I had growing up, so I now have some tools and some knowledge that I can pass on as an older me versus my younger me trying to figure it out. So now I'm where I'm at. On the other hand, I have my gym, which I fund myself. I pay like $2,000 a month for my gym. Sometimes I make the least, like I got clients, sometimes I don't. Everybody goes up and down. But I'm not gonna give it up because it's the platform that people will say they want, so I have to keep it. So I'm kind of in a tough place. But I position myself in one way so I can provide the other thing. So having access to resources that Children's may have or Odessa may have, because some folks we're on culturally and economically and in certain ways, a lot of those families might not cross over to that side. So what I'm providing to certain families and demographics, they will never probably see like maybe some folks that you all have in your establishments. It's just two different worlds. And so that's why I have to stay there, because I want to provide that. Now what I'm trying to do is bring in everybody so we are on the same place. Like if we did have a great facility where we did have like all these folks working as one to provide all of these services to this whole demographic, right? That would be my dream. So that's kind of like in a micro what I'm trying to do.
Thank you, thank you. And again, we just want to say thank you. Let's give them a big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you for this information. Thank you to the audience for joining us, coming out here. Thank you for everyone who is tuning in virtually. Please feel free to, please remember to sign up. This is the beginning, this is the kickoff of a conversation series that's going to be happening regularly through Odessa Brown Children's Clinic, and I know Dr. Hunter will speak a little bit more on that as well.
Yeah, well, I guess I get to help us transition. But before I help us transition to the food, I want to say, she was talking about physical touch. So as I eat my chicken wings, can I get a little massage?
Appreciate you, Mac.
So I just want to say a couple of things. I'm talking a little louder here. First of all, thanks to Urban Black, Katisha Atterbury, and Carlos Amani, and the Elite Collective. Excellent, beautiful, excellent. We're gonna have some great artifacts coming out of this. I also just want to point out a couple of things. One is the Odessa Brown Clinic that comes out of the spirit of the Black Panthers, because Odessa Brown was a Black Panther, has a lens that looks at the community not with a deficit mindset, but with strength. Do you see all the strength in our community? We don't need anyone to come rescue us. We have everything we need in community, and one of the reasons we're gathering is so that we can articulate how we can support the good work that's already being done. I've met every one of these people. This is a dream team for me, doing the work in the community, literally, on the playground, on the track, to a person. So Monique Burton comes out of our community, right? So she's one of the top physicians in sports medicine in the nation, came out of our community. So I just want to point out the strength in the community. The second thing is, there's a lot of events like this that happen every weekend. I'll also point out that I think it was Gabe said that it's important for us to get together. And this has been a wonderful way for me to spend this Saturday with you guys in community. And I think being together in community promotes mental health, right? When you see people going out there doing stuff crazy, they've usually been isolated, not connected to community. And I always think, why didn't somebody just fold them into community? So this being together has been healing for me and very powerful. Not only to see their excellence, but you all get to see what wonderful human beings they are, right? It's not just that they're knowledgeable and have experience, they are actually wonderful human beings, and they're in our community. But this isn't just performative for us. We're gonna literally take the video from this, dissect it, analyze it, and come up with policies and programs to help promote what the community wants. So this is just not a performative thing for us. It's really meaningful and significant. So thank you for your time and your wisdom. And we'll be reconnecting. We've got to do it again. I don't know how soon, but we have to do it again. Thank you, Spry, for coming out. I ran into Spry. We've been Facebook friends for a while, and I see his reinvention from a stylist to a wellness guru. And I ran into him in a track meet in Sacramento this summer. And I said, let's do something. Let's work together. And he's been willing to patiently work with Katisha and I to curate this experience for all of us. So thank you, Spry. It's been wonderful. Okay. And, for the guests you want to speak to the guests? You want to call some people out?
Yeah, I want to call some people out.
Okay.
So there's just for everybody on the panel as well, I wanted to introduce a friend that we're doing some work with. So I'll let him introduce himself. You guys can come check him out after we wrap this up.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. I'm Chris. I own Sweat Deck with my fiance, Christy. We created and just launched a new kids edition. It's a deck of cards with program workouts, fitness tests, drills for sports, And the most important thing that I think attracted Lenny was it represents the community and it represents everybody. So come check us out. Happy to run you guys through it, but very happy to hear the discussion. I learned a lot, and just pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I got the Marshawn Lynch one, if y'all really want to work out. And then, of course, I got my table over there, Raineer Valley Leadership Academy. You guys go ahead and talk to Kim. She's very nice. Thank you, Max.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. We're going to wrap up our program this afternoon, and we're going to invite everyone to join us for lunch as provided by Classic Eats and our good friend Tony Hayes. So thank you to my friend over here helping out, getting us set up for the food. So that being said, please stay connected with us. Make sure we have your contact information. We do want to continue to engage. We will be publishing another live stream of this event for our friends and family who did not have an opportunity to join us today. Follow the link to the website. And other than that, let's eat. Thank you.
Panelists, there will be a